Live from Western New York, this is Self-Advocacy in Action. Today's special guests are from Transforming Care, Maggie Buckley and Paul Cesana. Now, here are the dynamic duo, Mike Rogers and Essence Jackson.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Self-Advocacy in Action. I'm Essence Jackson. With me is my sidekick, Mike Rogers.
Hi everyone. Hi Maggie and Paul. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Thank you.
Well. Not a problem. Not a problem. One of our first questions for you is explain a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, I think I need to start by saying I'm a parent of a woman with a disability. My daughter Carly is 35 years old. She has Down syndrome. She lives at home with us, and she has certainly helped me to get where I am now in my life. She's been very instrumental in what I do for my work. Though I was in not-for-profit work and I have a background in nursing and I was a school psychologist, I certainly have to credit Carly with being the person who has influenced me most in my life.
Cool.
Awesome.
And what about you, Paul?
Well, and in my case, although I do have some family members that have some form of disabilities, I spent my whole career actually involved and being part of and supportive of people with disabilities and their families. Okay. From the early days, when I was still part of institutional experiences, to the whole decades of attempting to build community-based services, and seeing the whole new evolution and transformation of kind of the social political systems and how we are really facing some new challenges. So it's been really part of my entire career, and now actually I'm happily retired. So we have had time with Maggie and I and others to try to look at new ways of supporting people and benefiting ourselves in the process.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now you're talking about new ways of supporting people, and you're talking about transforming care.
How so? How so?
Well, first let me say that the name Transforming Care really conveys that people are transformed by receiving good care, by receiving personalized care and compassionate care, and the people who provide care are also transformed by the very same ways of compassionate living and community connections, and making sure that people can really be their best selves and really can have meaning in their life. I think that's one of the most important things about Transforming Care is we would like to see people have meaning in their life.
Absolutely. You don't see that much today.
You don't.
And that's very sad.
It is, Essence. And so we're hoping that we can support people who are doing meaningful work and living meaningful lives, and support and develop the system to support those kinds of activities.
Now we've had traditional services where people go to like a day program, or they get services in other areas like physical therapy, OT,
PT.
PT. How is this different?
Yeah.
What is this all about? Give us a little synopsis.
Okay. Let me start by saying that my daughter Carly receives services through self-direction.
Oh,
So
very cool. So
Yeah.
do I.
Yes.
And so you know how it works, and it's been really helpful, right? I think that we've all learned a lot from it and benefited a lot from it.
Yes.
What I found though was that, especially for my daughter, she has a staff person who works with her on a daily basis, but she's out in the community. But we've had to really work to forge relationships in the community for her to feel part of the community, for her to have things to do. And you know, our communities are not set up to support one another the way they used to be. think we're all a little more isolated and a little less reliant on each other than we used to be. So we knew that in forming Transforming Care, we had to address that and say we have to really work to make people feel part of the community. And so what we're trying to do is support initiatives that do that, that make people feel part of the community.
How do you think we as a united people can go about that in 2018? How do you think we can go about that?
Well, one of the things I think that we've looked at is trying to support organizations who are like-minded and who are already doing a good job with that. So our major initiative right now is to try to bring L'Arche to Buffalo. L'Arche is an organization that was started over 50 years ago by Jean Vanier in France, and it's a group of people who believe in shared living, so people with and
Cool.
without disabilities live together.
Awesome.
It is awesome, you know, and so L'Arche really focuses on compassionate living, but they focus on spiritual
Awesome.
development for people, and they focus primarily on relationships. So people that live together are living together because they want to be together.
That is so awesome.
It really is. It's a process that's really different from traditional services.
I want to why?
And so, well, because again, it is focused on relationships. It's something that's developed, homes are developed with people with disabilities, not for people with disabilities.
Really awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, so,
That sounds really cool. So it's not just like hiring a living caregiver and saying, be a caregiver type of thing.
no,
Like,
You
no, it's
What's
kind
the-
of have equal. You're equal.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
You all have what I'm looking for.
Well,
Like,
like in the large
Yeah,
philosophy,
you
the term
feel
is like
equal.
a peer. You're
Yeah.
a peer
Yeah.
with each other. Mhm.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what missing in a lot of these homes nowadays. I feel like I don't know about you, like, but that's the sense I get.
Yeah, man. I agree with you. I agree that there needs to be more of that. As far as who would be eligible for this
Yeah.
type of service, who would be benefiting from that? Is there a specific group of people that you're looking at, or anybody? What would that be like?
You want me to answer that,
Sure,
Maggie?
sure.
Because in a way, that's a good question
Yeah.
because it kind of gets to the fact that
In time.
both Transforming Care and L'Arche specifically,
Yeah,
it's almost like a movement.
yeah.
So people, as we all know, sometimes they're desperate, right, for solutions, for a
Yeah.
house to live in, a job,
Yeah.
having friendships, right?
Yeah,
And so the typical way that we have been accustomed, to have those solutions is sometimes to have maybe government or some pay staff, to help us out.
Yeah.
yeah.
And not to say that L'Arche doesn't support that. That's still very important. The difference is that I think L'Arche is more of a movement. It's more like a sense of saying we really are all part of this human experience, right? And sometimes because of social circumstances or because of personal family circumstances, we tend to be into our own little corners.
Yeah.
L'Arche, it's an opportunity to bring us all together.
I love
and it
it.
does that, again, that's why it's more like a movement. And it's an opportunity for people to get to know each other, to benefit from supporting each other, from having a relationship that is mutually supportive, and where everybody benefits. Whether you
I
have a
love
disability or not, you benefit from getting to know each other. So there's like a whole kind of ideological and frankly also a spiritual element to it that goes
Okay.
beyond just the traditional
Just the
social
traditional.
service type of system.
Cool.
Now, as far as the community goes, is it like, would you live in like a separate community, or is it? Because you said it's like a movement, but but is it like a separate, inclusive community?
Yeah, Maggie has visited a number of communities, and I have just a few of them.
And you know, they're all different. So L'Arche, again, was started in Europe, and the man who started it, Jean Vanier, ended up taking 2 people with disabilities from an institution to live with him. And he started out very simply with that idea that he felt this was his purpose and that he felt he could provide a richer and more beautiful life for people who would live in a home with him. And from that, it grew to an international organization that's over 50 years old. And every community in the States and in Europe, because there's several in Europe as well as in the United States, is slightly different. While L'Arche has its own identity and expectations for all communities, every community has its own personality based on who comes to the community and who expresses interest in the community. So some L'Arches are based in homes, and they'll have maybe 4 people in a house, and they may have several houses in a city. They may have apartments. In Long Island, there's a community forming, it's formed about 2 years ago, and they are using self-direction money, and they have a house now for 4 individuals, and there are 2 live-in staff and 1 volunteer, and they will probably be moving on to apartment dwelling in the future.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Cool.
The basis for L'Arche, though, is that they really want to celebrate life. They want people to celebrate life together. So however the community looks, it's always very important that the community can come together for celebrations. So one of the things they like to see is that we would have a community center or some major place. So if people are living in small little apartments or in their own little homes, that people can come together for celebrations and support.
Cool. Cool.
Cool. Is it state funded, or how do you guys receive funding, or do you receive funding?
Well, in the past, at least in the United States, when a L'Arche opened, the process was that you would have a not-for-profit organization that would become a certified group home, and then L'Arche would move in to provide the services. But that's changing now. L'Arche is evolving along with our systems. So the funding in our situation will be that we'll have people in self-direction bringing their individual budgets together, and we'll be using that.
Sorry, you did say that.
Oh, that's okay. But you know, in addition to that, we'll be doing a lot of fundraising because we need to make sure that we're sustainable and that we are always able to provide what we say we're going to provide.
Now, I went to a meeting a couple years back where they were talking about similar communities in other states, and people were very concerned because they felt that this was bordering on non-inclusiveness, that it went back to a more segregated idea. Mm-hmm. What is your feeling on that? You know, I want to give you a chance to say, no, that's not true, type of thing. Yeah. So how do you feel about that?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I think it's a really important question. L'Arche is really not meant to be segregated at all. In fact, they really promote inclusion. So not only do you have people with and without disabilities living together, but L'Arche is very committed to interacting with the community wherever their homes are. They really make great efforts to interact with the community. And if people want to get to know a L'Arche, one of the first things that will happen is that people will be invited to share a meal, because they feel like, you know, having
Food
people in to share food is good, and
Yes.
they feel like having people in to share a meal really gets people
People
talking,
like
and
food.
people like food, and it's a great way to break the ice for people and gather and talk and spread joy.
Now, many times, like traditionally, if a staff is hired, a staff person is really not encouraged to build like not good relationships, but personal relationships.
Yeah.
How would this be different?
you know, people are, what's different here is that people really are encouraged to build relationships. And, you know, one of the things that really interested me in this is years ago when it became apparent to me that at some point my daughter would be cared for by people other than her immediate family, I was really troubled because I thought, I want her to live in a house. I want her to be in a situation every day where people love her and she's there because she wants to be there, and the people that are living with her are there because they want to be there, not because they have to be there.
Yeah.
And I started looking at how can this happen? Where can I find it? And I found it in L'Arche. And from everything I've read and everything I've experienced through visiting L'Arche communities, people are encouraged to have relationships.
In fact, one of the distinctive features of the L'Arche is a sense of commitment.
Yeah.
So a lot of the peers that are called, that might be paid peers or other peers that may be coming for the experience, is like for them to get to know what it's like to be in a community such as that, so as to make a commitment, maybe for a whole year, maybe for a few years, so that they become part of the community. So that's really something that is unique, because typically when you have a paid staff, you know, that individual may find another opportunity and move on, and so that doesn't necessarily happen. But with L'Arche, there's that sense of absolute, it's okay to establish a long-term relationship, getting to know each other, but also make a commitment of sustaining that type of relationship.
And how can you not? You're working with the person every day or almost every day. How can you not form a relationship with the people or person you are working with? My mom said the same thing. Oh, I don't want you to get attached to this person. What if they have to leave? I'm like, Mom, how can I not form a bond with my staff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You share every day with each
Right.
other, and
She's much more than my staff. She's part of my family.
Yeah, right.
I see her 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
exactly. Good point.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about community, oftentimes in tradition, I'm going to be kind of the devil dead guy here, and oftentimes, in traditional services, when they talk about community, it's like they're going on a long trip in space, and they're gonna go to the community. And what is your different sense of community when it comes to that word and what it means to L'Arche and transforming care?
That's an excellent question, Mike, and probably like one that you're right. Everybody can have different interpretation, right, what a community is to themselves or to others. What both within L'Arche and within transforming care is kind of what Maggie said earlier, that the tendency is often for people, even through our experience of having built a so-called community-based service system, right, has been almost a tendency to say, okay, there are funding that are there to support paid individuals that provide paid services in a community, and so I can come back and rest and feel that somebody else is almost taking care of people that need that type of support. Our sense of community is more, don't get away so fast with that notion of passing on that responsibility but also opportunity to others. The sense of community is one where there's a reciprocal involvement, kind of a give and take, that sometimes also involves responsibilities, and is part of that give, you also receive and you benefit from that relationship. So it's really the sense of saying, start maybe small, but try to get as big as you can with similar community. For example, the whole notion of, frankly, community of faith is big within L'Arche. So it's the sense that normally in community of faith, you have people that tend to kind of have similar values of helping each other, supporting each other, benefiting from each other. So those tend to be, it started with Catholic a community of faith, and now it's expanded to any type of community of faith, different, not only denomination, but also religions.
Cool,
But it's
cool.
that sense of sharing with each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maggie, I have a question for you coming from my mom, from my daughter to a mother. How well do you sleep at night knowing that your daughter is cared for by people who love her?
Well, you know what? That is a really good question, and
So I can let my mom know, and she can maybe be at ease.
You know, I think, and you brought up something earlier about attachment and attachment to staff, and of course, even in L'Arche, we're going to have those issues of attachment, and then people needing, for whatever reason, to move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to talk about, and it's certainly something that bothers me. And there's certainly always a risk in all of this. Whenever we're in relationship, right, we're at risk.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things about L'Arche is that. First of all, it really tends to draw people who really want to be in connection with people and really want to live in community with people. And the other thing is that we would hope in the homes or the apartments or wherever people are living together, that the people who stay there full time, which L'Arche refers to as the core members, the people with disabilities are often referred to as the core members, would have relationships with each other as well, and would be there because they all want to be there together. And so that will be a buffer from the pain of losing staff people. So I spend a lot of sleepless nights worried about my daughter, but you know what? When I think about bringing L'Arche here, it always gives me hope. It always makes me feel hopeful.
Now this is kind of a different question, but going along with that theme.
Sorry, man.
No, don't be sorry. Going along with that theme is that if someone does leave the community, like a staff person,
Yeah.
a lot of times relationships end after that. There's no continuation. Is there an encouragement to keep in communication even if someone has to leave the position?
There absolutely is,
Yeah.
and in fact, Mike, there's a woman that that we're in contact with from Rochester, and she lived in a large community in Hamilton, Ontario, right outside of Hamilton, and she's not lived in the community for several years now. She's married now and raising her own family, but she repeatedly goes back to the community. In fact, she brought us with her last Thanksgiving for an event there. And so she remains very connected to the community. When she married, she was no longer living in the community immediately prior to her wedding, but one of the people who she lived with and cared for was in her wedding party. So she's maintained very close connections, which is pretty typical of what happens in L'Arche.
That's
Very,
nice.
very cool. Now, when we talk about community involvement, how do you see the surrounding community be more interactive? Do you see them be more interactive than for those in regular or traditional services? You know, building relationships.
Actually, Mike, that's probably been our challenge, if you will, in bringing in a movement such as L'Arche locally, because again, it starts more with an approach like a mental state and kind of putting your mind and your heart into it.
Yeah.
It has taken some time to explain what L'Arche is all about, because people, frankly, they're desperate sometimes, you know, for things that they need. Those needs are very imminent. And so to begin saying, well, this is kind of a broader, more kind of long-term process of getting people to know each other and supporting each other, it's going to take some time. And that's what we have been involved in, you know, so far.
Yeah, when I first saw the name, I thought it was like a convenience store, you know, ice drink or something. What is a L'Arche? You know, so I had to go look that up and
One of
try
those
to
French
find
drinks,
out.
huh?
Yeah. I was like, I can't even pronounce this thing, right?
You're right.
Yes.
So, what has been one of the good what is George about starting Loves?
So that's where, like, again, Maggie, frankly, was the one that imported not only the idea, the notion, but the commitment to get people to think about starting. And so for over the past 6 months now, we've been meeting every month with people that are interested to come and hear and learn about L'Arche, and to get to know each other and to get to know certainly their own family, individual experiences, their dreams, what they would like to do, but also what this movement and this idea is all about. And so that's been what we've done so far, and that we plan to continue to do.
Cool.
So, anything else you would like to say about Loves?
Well, I would like to let people know that they can go on our website, transformingcare.org, and follow what we're doing there. We will have announcements for monthly meetings that we're holding. We really would like the community to be involved, whether you're a person with a disability, a caregiver for someone with a disability, or a person who wants to see this kind of community thrive in Buffalo. We would like your input, and we would love your involvement.
Excited.
Very, very good. Do you have regular meetings like people can attend to see what this is all about and not just go on the internet? Like, do you have physical meetings?
We
like,
do. We
Where
have
are
monthly
they
meetings,
located?
and currently they've been held at the Museum of Disability on Main Street in Eggertsville, so that we're in a kind of a central, accessible building. And we're putting out announcements for the meetings as they're scheduled.
Are you on any social media? What?
Facebook and stuff like
We're
that?
on Facebook and our website. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very, very cool. Well, we just want to say that this has been a very unique opportunity, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you for this opportunity to
Yes,
talk
thank
about
you very
this.
much for having us. Appreciate it.
Since Jackson,
And I'm Mike Rogers.
see you next time on Self-Advocacy in Action. Enjoy your day.
This is Eric Cesana speaking for Self-Advocacy in Action, a San is Western production. To watch more episodes of Self-Advocacy in Action, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter or YouTube, or go to www.sainaction.com. That's www.sainaction.com.